Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Tiago and this is a video about order of operations. So first, let's break it down. What do we mean by order of operations? Well, our operations are basically when you do stuff with numbers, correct? Our basic operations, for example, are adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and there are other operations. There are other operations, but these are the basic ones. And the order of operations basically deciding, it's a convention that we have to decide which operations we do first and last. And you may ask, well, why do we need an order? And I'll show you right now. Because, well, let's take an example. 5 plus 3 times 4. If you look at this problem, you have two different ways of approaching it. You could start with the 5 plus 3, which would give you then, well, 5 plus 3 equals 8 times 4 would give you 32, right? Or you could do this multiplication first, which would give you 12, correct? Times 5 is, plus 5 is 17. And these, you can see, are very different answers. And then you may say, okay, but why don't we then consider both of the answers right? Well, what if we had a problem where you had a lot of operations? Divided by 4, minus 1. What if you had a very big problem? Imagine how many different orders you could do this. You could start this problem. How many different answers you would get with these different orders, and how many different answers you would have to keep track of. So the order of operations is basically just a convention that we have, a rule that mathematicians decided on to make our life easier, so we wouldn't have to keep track of so many different answers. And so, what is this order? To remember this order, there's a really cool acronym, which you've probably heard of, PEMDAS. And it stands for, and I'm gonna do it in 4 bullet points because because some of them overlap. First, we have parentheses, correct? Which are these brackets, parentheses. Number 2, we have exponents. And these, if you don't know what they are, that's okay. I'm not gonna get into them in this video, but we can make another video of them if you guys want to. Third, we have multiplication and division. And these two are together because, technically one is not like a priority on top of the other, but there's this important rule that if you have both of them, you should usually go from left to right, and I'm gonna have an example to show that later, to show why that's important. And lastly, addition and subtraction. All right, do the symbols. And again, division and subtraction are technically, you can do them in any order between them, but you should usually go from left to right. I'll talk about that later. Anyway, so let's take an example. Parenthesis 3 plus 7 divided by 2. Alright? And then, when you're looking at a problem which has multiple operations, always, if you want, write down the PEMDAS for you to remember and go through the list. Okay, first comes parentheses. Do we have any parentheses here? Yes, we do. We have this parentheses, and inside the parentheses we have 3 plus 7. And this may be a bit confusing for some of you because parenthesis itself is not an operation, right? It's different from multiplication, division. Exponents is also an operation, but I'm not going to get into that. But parenthesis is not. But basically what this means, parenthesis number 1, is that you want to do whatever is inside the parenthesis before everything that's outside. So in this case, it just means do whatever's inside before doing what's outside. And in this case, an addition is inside. So you will do that addition first. When you add 3 plus 7, you get 10, right? That's a result inside the parenthesis. You don't need to draw this, but I'm doing it. Divided by 2, and then you get what's inside the parenthesis, what's the final result of the parenthesis, and you do whatever it says to do with the parentheses. In this case, it's asking to divide that by 2. So you get the final value, 10, divided that by 2 equals 5, and that's your final answer. All right? Another example. What if you have 15 minus 2 times 3 divided by 3? All right? In this case, you have more than one operation inside the parentheses. And in this case, again, well, let's first go through the list. Pandas, number 1, parenthesis. Do we have a parenthesis? Yes. So we will do whatever's inside this parenthesis before what's outside. And here, and then we have to look what's inside the parenthesis. And there are also different, ways you could approach what's inside here. You could do 15 minus 2, and then you would get that and multiply by 3, which would give you 13 times 3 is, I don't know. Then 2 times 3 first is your other option, which would give you 15 minus 6, right? So there are still some important order that you need to choose, but then again, you follow your list. So now inside the parenthesis, which one comes first? Multiplication or subtraction? Multiplication is number 3 in the list, so that will come first. So you will do for that first. So you would get next 6, right? So 15 minus 6, and that is still inside a parenthesis. So you can again do what's inside the parenthesis. 15 minus 6 gives you a 9, and that divided by 3 would be 3. Correct? Yes. And now, for our last example, I will do one, let me show you. Regarding what I was talking about later with the order of multiplication and division. So, what if you had 20 divided by 4 times 5? And then if you look at your list here, multiplication and division are in the same level, correct? So it wouldn't matter the order in which you do them. But in this case, if you look at it, when you start with this section, you get 20 divided by 4 is 5. And when you start with this section, let's finish this section first. Divided by 4 is 5. Then bring that 5 down, times 5, would give you an answer of 25. But, I'm going to do it in the bottom here. But if you start with the right, and you multiply 4 times 5 first, then you get 20. And 20 divided by 20 is 1. So in this case, you did get 2 different answers by switching the order of multiplication and division. And this will happen sometimes. I'm not sure when. We can make another video specifically about in which cases you have to worry about this. But I think to be safe, you should always go from left to right. Oh yeah, because the rule, how then do you end up, which is the right answer? Well, there's a little note here for these two, and I think for the other ones too, but for these two especially, that you should always go from left to right. So in this case, since division is in the left, you do the division first. And therefore, yeah, this will be the correct answer. All right? Yes. So, hope you guys liked the video. If you have any other questions, you can leave a comment, or we're still thinking of other ways you can communicate with us. Maybe we'll drop an email in the comments, okay? And yeah, thank you. See you later.